Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and this evening I'm going to be freezing my behind off because my son has a game and it is cold right now in this part of the country. Many of you, I'm sure, will laugh at me because cold here means, say, in the 40s, maybe 35, 40. That's cold here. And so I'm sure many of you around the world are just think that's hilarious. But for me, it means I'm going to be cold. It's also terrible to swing a baseball bat when it's that cold because that bat can hit that thud and it just makes the baseball player's hands hurt. Okay, I was going to show you this market now. Our market has come down this week, but in the scheme of things, when you look at the stock market, crypto is kind of, being crypto moves faster and slower, and goes down further when it does move than the traditional markets do right now just because of its size. But relatively, the crypto market, I feel like, has done a lot better than how the stock market has done. But again, the XRP prices are purely a distraction. Back to what Glenn Hutchins said. It's purely a distraction. And what that means, if you want to decipher that, what that means is that once true use case and utility begins, and I believe it started to begin, but once it truly begins, everyone will agree that coin market cap and all those prices and all that was just a distraction from the much bigger picture. So let's look today at some of the bigger picture. Today, I want to talk to you about XRP in relation to safe haven status, or also not just a safe haven asset to put your money in, but also what I think will be a new safe haven squared, or a supercharged safe haven versus what the options we've had in the past. But first, let's look here. This was on CNBC Fast Money last night. I'm going to show you just the beginning to make you understand some of the what I guess I would call panic. I'm just going to show you the first part because I'll bet in this video he probably says some words that I'm not supposed to say on this channel, according to YouTube.
The Dow just had its biggest point drop in history, falling 1,190 points. That was a 4.4% drop. The Dow index has now lost 3,200 points this week alone. It is now down nearly 10% this year. The S&P means...
Okay. I was afraid if I kept it playing, he might tell you part of the reason that it's down, and it's that word I can't say on this channel, which is crazy that we're not allowed to say words now, but we can't. Now, here we get to the meat of it, folks. Now, I've watched a lot of Ripple drops, okay? Now, yesterday, as he just showed you, the Dow was down over 1,000 points. It is not a coincidence that Ripple sent this out, and it is not a coincidence that they used the words that they used in this video. Now, and I'm going to give you several themes that were in this video, and I actually typed out the words word for word because words mean things, and I'm going to say those words to you and let them really sink in. But first, I'm going to let you watch the whole video. I was made aware of this video by the official neighbor of the Digital Asset Investor channel, who is a Mississippi State fan. All right, and this is Ripple tweeted it out on newest Ripple drop. Brianna Madigan dives into the foundation of liquidity. Joel Katz, David Schwartz, explains how changes are made to the XRP Ledger, and this is the bread wallet, and I'm going to talk about that later in the video. President and co-founder shares his thoughts on crypto. Watch here. All right, so this is the Ripple drop. Listen, turn your ears on big time, folks. This is the best Ripple drop I believe I've ever heard.
Hey, what's up? I'm Reinhard Kate, and welcome to episode 19 of The Drop. We've got a very XRP-focused episode. We've got David Schwartz on to talk about the Xrp Ledger. Brianne Madigan's going to talk about liquidity in digital assets. And last but not least, we've got the co-founder and CEO of BRD Wallet, Aaron Voisin. Stay tuned for The Drop. David, give me some context on the Xrp Ledger, where it started and where we are today.
Well, I started working on what we now call the Xrp Ledger at the end of 2011. So I've been at this for, 8-9 years now. It kind of feels like forever. But the changes have been drastic. I mean, in the early days, all we had was the ability to perform a transaction on a decentralized ledger in just a couple of seconds. And then we started to realize that the properties of the algorithms that we developed allowed us to do things like a decentralized exchange. And then we had this idea of allowing people to issue assets and ideas like community credit. And we put all that together into a functional system probably in mid-2012.
Why is robustness so important today with so many payment providers and financial networks that are depending on the Xrp Ledger?
You have to realize that you're talking about billions of dollars in a system that doesn't have an administrator. There's nobody that you can go to if it messes up. And so reliability is the number one property. And it means that these systems are very slow to develop and evolve. In the early days, before I was working on the Xrp Ledger and I was looking at Bitcoin, and we sort of had this idea that if there was any new feature, Bitcoin would just adopt it. We now know that that's hopelessly naive because any change to a system like this imposes costs on everybody who uses the system. With any other piece of software, a company will release a new version of the software. Say Oracle releases a new version, and they'll say to people who have like mission critical deployments, don't upgrade to the new version. Just use the current version, give us a little bit of time, test it, whatever. You can't really do that on a public blockchain. If the rules change, people have to run software with the new rules. If you want to ask why these systems don't move more quickly, why they don't add features on a regular basis, that's why.
You've suggested changes for the Xrp Ledger. Can you give us an overview of what those changes are and what they might mean for the network?
I've suggested a bunch of changes that fall into several different categories. One of those categories is like core consensus improvements. One of the things that I've said a lot is that proof of work is kind of a technological dead end. It works fine. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm just saying that there hasn't been any significant innovation in it. There are also changes that are in the form of new features. One of the features that I think is very exciting is a feature that would allow people to launch well, stablecoins are the obvious use case, but it's not just stablecoins. It's essentially assets pegged to some external value. Features similar to that exist on other systems, but the interesting thing about this is that the liquidity is guaranteed by the ledger mechanics.
Why is liquidity important for market stability and health then?
I think even to take a step back, liquidity has a lot of components that are important to kind of address. So one of which is immediacy. So I think about that as how quickly can I get access to markets and how quickly can I trade into and out of this asset or token for another asset. I think about the breadth of the market. So breadth is sort of how you think about the trading volumes at different prices in the order book, and then depth of the market. And depth of the market is really about how many orders there are close to exactly where the price is currently trading of varying sizes, which would imply that you could get a lot of volume through without having much price movement as you're trading into and out of the asset. And then in addition, accessibility is very important. So accessibility is just probably as it intuitively sounds, the ability to access markets to trade in those assets very easily. And that can be geographically or through multiple infrastructure partners, whether it's exchanges or OTC desks or what have you. And the last key attribute of a healthy liquid market is really resilience. And that is getting at the ability for a market to recover from a significant systemic event. So if there was some sort of a market shock, the ability for order books to get back to normality and tighten back to similar prices to where they were prior to that event relatively quickly. And so all of those attributes are very important to a healthy liquid market.
How does deeper liquidity impact services like on-demand liquidity or ODL?
That's a great question. So as you think about the value that we're providing sending flow from the US to Mexico, because we're able to use XRP as the bridge currency between the US and Mexico and do basically instantaneous transactions, we are significantly reducing the cost base sending that money cross-border. And the view that we're delivering and focused on enterprises is true, enterprise solutions to help them perform their business more efficiently. But as we do that, we're really giving them the opportunity to pass on the fee savings through leveraging our technology and infrastructure to their everyday consumers. So, somebody living in America who's working and sending money back to their family in Mexico, we're really thrilled that the work that we're doing is really driving value to the bottom line and to everyday consumers.
Aaron, tell me about BRD Wallet. How does the technology you guys employ make mainstream adoption of digital assets more real?
It's just an app for mobile devices, Android and iOS. The intention of it is just to make cryptocurrency really simple and safe and easy and convenient to use.
What differentiates BRD Wallet from other wallets that are out there?
Our Bitcoin wallet connects directly to the Bitcoin peer-to-peer network. So even if all our servers go away or get seized or our company shuts down or whatever, you still have access to all your money.
What's Blockset and why is it important for developers in the space?
So in supporting lots of different cryptocurrencies for our consumer wallet, we had to build out a back-end kind of enterprise-grade service for...
Wait a minute, I think my earphones just went off. Hold on one second. Everybody, sorry I don't know why that keeps happening, but every once in a while my wireless earphones will just disconnect for no reason, but it doesn't happen often. Sorry, here we go.
Cryptocurrencies for our consumer wallet. We had to build out a back-end kind of enterprise-grade service for peer-to-peer networks. Since it runs on mobile devices, there needs to be a lightweight and a mobile-oriented protocol. Our goal is to eventually get there, hopefully, with all the blockchains for things like Ethereum. The lightweight mobile protocol is not quite ready yet, so we're doing that through a system that we call server-assisted syncing, using our Blockset backend to do that. There's a lightweight protocol for Bitcoin Cash, and other Bitcoin services that's called SPV, Simplified Payment Verification, and that's what we're using to connect directly to the Bitcoin peer-to-peer network. And hopefully we can get there with all the blockchains eventually as the protocols merge.
Being a long-time Bitcoin guy, you guys are now adding Xrp to your wallet. How does that add value to the industry and to people that use your wallet?
As I mentioned, we started using just Bitcoin, but then when Bitcoin market dropped below 50%, we realized that we have to support what the market wants, and Xrp is always right near the top list as far as market cap and the number of customers and use cases for it. Businesses that have adopted it is growing all the time, and it's proven itself to be extremely valuable. It's something that the market wants, and so that's why we're supporting it in BRD.
Okay, what a great video. Now, I want to hit across the top here. I want to tell you what I'm getting out of Ripple right now, just my observing. There's a few themes. The first one is the confidence of Ripple is unbelievable. They start the year with 2020 is the year of the digital asset. It's a confidence that you wouldn't just have unless you just knew. Okay. Then they come out yesterday on a day that after a week that the stock market has been pummeled, and on the day that the market ends over 1,000 points down, they released this video where in the video, and I'll get to what she said exactly in a minute, Brianna Madigan talks about XRP in relation to how it could help in a systemic event, okay? And this is not the first time these types of things have been said, and I'll go through those. But there's a few things coming out of Ripple, and the first one is their level of confidence. The second one is that David Schwartz is beginning to, this is the second time in a week or two that he's come out and made a comment towards Bitcoin. Usually in the past, he's been kind of neutral on the subject, but he's taken a swipe at Bitcoin the last two times I've seen him. The third thing that seems to be a theme is they keep bringing up Ethereum. So there's an obvious signal that Ethereum is going to be part of this global reset. And then there's another thing that is coming out, and that is that more than once, it's been 2 or 3 times over the last month, they've brought out this guy from the Bread wallet. So I'm going to give you my theory, and it's only my theory about the Bread wallet and what I think this might be about towards the end of this video. But first, I wanted to show you, before I even show you this, let's go back to this. I typed out some of the comments from this that I thought were the most interesting comments. First, from David Schwartz. He said, and I quote, "Proof of work is a technical dead end." I mean, if that doesn't tell everybody out there, look, it's not Bitcoin, I don't know what does, okay? And then the second thing that he said that my ears really perked up is he was referring to the developments to the XRP Ledger. And he referred to how you'll be able to have assets pegged to some external value. What that means, folks, this is my translation. What that means is that you're going to be able, I've talked about how things are going to be tokenized, real estate tokenized. It could be an art collection tokenized. The tokenization of assets, which is going to be one of the biggest things in all of this. The tokenization of assets. He literally just told you, this was my interpretation, he literally just told you that people will be tokenizing assets on the XRP Ledger, and that is a big deal. Think about the trillions of dollars that are out there in all sorts of assets, like a beachfront property. Let's say $1 million beachfront property that can be tokenized on the XRP Ledger, and then that investment becomes a liquid investment that's traded on exchanges, folks. Remember yesterday, just as a side note, BNY Mellon put out that I remember because Matthew Liney had sent it to me, BNY Mellon put out some kind of little PDF on the tokenization of assets. Now, they didn't mention XRP, but remember, BNY Mellon, one of their heirs was one of the largest XRP holders back in 2018. The guy died, and the big story was that he died and he didn't have, he didn't tell anybody about his keys or anything or something like that. But then yesterday I showed you that BNY Mellon is the largest traditional custodian in the world. They're one of the largest investors in SBI, which invests in Ripple and R3. Okay. So these are just things that pop up in my head while I'm talking. Okay, here's what else David Schwartz said in that video. He said, and this is one of those quotes where you're like, wow. He said, the liquidity is guaranteed by ledger mechanics. And he was saying that in reference to once people tokenize assets and put them on the XRP Ledger. The liquidity is guaranteed by the ledger mechanics. Then Brianna Madigan comes to the plate. And she's talking about the importance of resilience with regard to the XRP Ledger. She says, the ability for a market to recover from a significant systemic event. If there were some sort of market shock, the ability for order books to get back to normality and tighten back to similar prices to where they were prior to that event relatively quickly. Now, folks, if you're new to this, listen, let me tell you why I'm invested. There's a bunch of reasons it's XRP, but let me tell you why I'm invested in the digital asset XRP. In my opinion, here's what you get with the digital asset XRP. I believe that you've got the digital asset that is going to have more liquidity flowing through it than any other digital asset that there is, period. Okay? And all that matters to me is the next 5 years. And I think starting this year and over the next 5 years, the liquidity that will be flowing through XRP will be astounding. Okay? On top of that, and here's how I've always pictured it in my mind. Imagine that you're a holder of XRP and all of that liquidity slowly at first and eventually faster and faster begins to flow through XRP. It's going to be like a slow incline because you would probably do it in a somewhat slow fashion starting out at least. And that price of XRP slowly begins to rise over time. Now, at some point, the speculators realize what's going on. They realize what you and I have realized all along. And they say, wait a minute, look at that. That asset right there is rising slowly over time as the banks and the central banks and the payment companies of the world start to run their payments flows and run all of their flows and settle through XRP and all of this. And it slowly is ticking up. At what point? And I believe David Schwartz has said something about this before. At some point, the investing public will see that. And at some point, they will not just look at it as a great investment, but what better safe haven than an investment that has both utility and speculators that are seeing the utility and start pouring in. There is no better investment. There is no better safe haven than that. What happens when the world realizes what you and I already realize? That's why I'm here. That's why I'm talking about this. That's why the world's about to change. Okay, now, this is not just me talking. I want you to, I'll refer you to Chris Larson, the chairman of Ripple, okay? This is Chris Larson at Money 2020, and I don't care how many times I have to show these videos. I keep showing them because there are constantly new people showing up and that need to know what we know. All right, so this is, remember, the 2008 financial crisis. I believe that's where all of this was born anyway. The 2008 financial crisis, the core problem was liquidity. Listen to what Chris Larson says.
Is 10 years out on the financial crisis, we still don't have the infrastructure perhaps to prevent the next one. And I think this is where digital assets can really help, because an efficient digital asset can really solve some of the key problems in global liquidity. You know, the world's got trillions and trillions of dollars tied up in liquidity just to get around how clunky the movement of value is around the world. If with a really efficient digital asset, something like Xrp, and that's what we believe will be the most efficient, you can reduce trillions and trillions of capital from being tied up. So you can make those transfers instantly as a bank or a payment provider or enterprise without having to have money positioned all over the world. So that's
okay. So there's one clip that you should be thinking about. Then Cryptopolis tweeted this out this morning. He says, "Gotta ask yourself, why is gold declining? Isn't it a safe haven?" Okay, now I'm not saying that gold is going to continue to decline. I think gold, precious metals, will always do great as a safe haven, and I believe in them as a safe haven. But I think they don't have properties that things like XRP have. You can't go hop on a plane with your $1 million of gold. Okay, you can't move your gold like that. Okay, can't happen. That's why I believe there are new safe havens that are coming. All right, or that are here. That is. This is from Investopedia. I wanted to show you, for those of you that have never seen anything like this, I wanted to show you what are the safe havens. What are these people that are getting smoked in the stock market? They are hitting the exits. What is their exit plan? Where has it traditionally been to exit? I'm going to show you. The examples of safe havens, we just talked about gold and silver. I think those will always be stores of value, and I will own some myself. But there's a problem. The movability problem is a big problem. It's not very liquid. It's not easy to sell. Treasury bills. Historically, people pile into treasury bills. What are treasury bills? U.S. debt. Well, let me show you why I will not be piling into treasury bills. At some point, the investing public will wise up to the fact that treasury bills are not only not a safe haven, it's probably one of the most dangerous. It's probably one of the most dangerous investments on the planet Earth because of these ridiculous debts that not just the U.S. but all the countries of the world have allowed themselves to get into. Then you've got defensive stocks. Well, I personally am not investing in any stocks in a scenario like this. Now, there are certain plays. I heard somebody say that there are certain stocks that are doing well, like Zoom stock has done well. It's a where you can talk to people over the internet is doing well in this situation. Cash is probably one of the last places that I would put my money for the same reasons. All the money printing and debt that the world has put itself into. Safe haven currencies. Now, here's one that's interesting. The Swiss franc, okay? That's what's referred to as a G10 currency, which would be some of the top fiat currencies of the world. It says some currencies are considered safe havens compared to others. In volatile markets, investors and currency traders may seek to convert holdings of cash into these currencies for protection. The Swiss franc is considered a safe haven currency. Given the stability of the Swiss government and its financial system, the Swiss franc usually faces a strong upward pressure stemming from increased foreign demand. Okay, Now, let's go to this. This is from Stephen Bull from the DF. I keep showing you this one, and I will continue to. Again, Chris Larson, the chairman of Ripple. If I can get it to play. Let's hit a refresh on that. Okay, here we go. Am I having an internet slowdown issue? Hold on.
About the future of cryptocurrencies, where do you see the future of these digital assets and maybe the role of Bitcoin and Ripple or Xrp in the future?
Yeah, so our view is that these digital assets really become supplemental to the existing family of currency. Right. So every country needs its own, fiat currency for all kinds of reasons that I won't get into. Get it right. And I actually think that the big four, the yen, the euro, the dollar, RMB, they actually, I think, become strong in this world that we're going to, partially because of digital assets. Okay. That these digital assets actually contribute to a world that's more interoperable, where more people around the globe can get access to the big four. And most of the global commerce is done in the big four. So I think you have a bifurcation going on. Those big four get stronger. I think some of the smaller countries, maybe even some more of the very small fiat currencies, become less relevant, maybe even disappear. A country could have its own fiat, but still use one of the big four.
Like Montenegro, right?
Absolutely. But I think that where the digital assets fit in, like things like Xrp and Bitcoin, they're kind of in that mid-range. They become like the $1 or the Swiss franc, and they become useful in kind of lubricating the world, to make it easier for those big four to get in the hands of people all around the world. So that's useful. And then it might also be things like applications and devices that maybe primarily use one of the digital assets. So that's kind of the view we have. So I think in that world, countries should be less threatened by what's going on and see them as simply supplemental rather than a threat. Too much talk about it being a threat. Our industry is
okay, now let's go back to this. Remember, so gold is considered, there's approximately $8 trillion in precious metals, gold being the primary one. So Swiss franc is on par with gold as far as it's considered a safe haven currency, whereas gold is a safe haven commodity. So you got these are safe havens. Well, if there's 8 trillion in gold, okay, now just against, this is all against the backdrop. What is there in XRP right now? 10 billion? 10 billion? Really? And these guys want there to be the liquidity of one of the current safe haven fiat currencies. So let's look at let's see, these are G10 currencies, the Swiss franc, okay? And this is what Miguel Valles said, a guy asked him, Lambo soon back in 2018. Miguel Valles says, when XRP is more liquid than a G10 currency, I'll buy myself a chocolate chip and get back to work. What is a G10 currency? The Swiss franc is one. The US dollar is one. The euro, pound sterling, Japanese yen, Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar. Do you see where this is going, folks? Okay. Well, let me let Miguel Valles again tell you where this is going. Okay, so he says that his goal is for the liquidity to be like a fiat currency, right? So, okay, and then he said that, and then, okay, I want to finish with this. These are the vibes I'm getting from Ripple. They keep talking about Ethereum all of a sudden. They're going to the Denver Ethereum conference. Now, remember, David Schwartz said proof of work is a technological dead end, okay? Well, currently Ethereum's proof of work, but what were they talking about at the Denver conference? Well, Vitalik Buterin was talking about Ethereum 2.0 and getting away from proof of work. It's all in the plan. Ethereum's in the game, XRP's in the game, and I think Stellar's probably somewhere in this game too. Okay, but they keep on talking about this bread wallet, okay? Now, I have looked at this bread wallet, I've watched videos on this bread wallet, and I've seen all kinds of wallets since I got into this game. Toast wallet and all kinds of different wallets that people have used, wallets on your phone. There's one thing that none of the, and including Brett, I've never seen anything where they say that this is what is so secure about it. They all talk about how secure they are. And this one's no different, but there's a reason that Ripple keeps talking about the bread wallet. This is a wallet to put on your phone. The reason none of us put our digital assets in any of these wallets is because we really, really don't trust it. What have we all been waiting for? Custody, folks. We've been waiting for custody. I showed you yesterday, all the major traditional custody firms are investors in SBI, which is the primary investor in Ripple and R3. That's not a coincidence. This is all about custody. Meanwhile, what have we had that's been such a secretive project out there? Well, I'll give you a hint. Okay, and so now, and this is Polysun, and remember, for those of you that don't know, Polysun, the people that have formed Polysun, Arthur Brito, one of the guys that created the Xrp Ledger, and Antoinette O'Gorman was at Ripple before she went to Polysun. Anna Tong was at Ripple before she went to Polysun. Look who the board member is, David Schwartz, one of the creators of XRP. Look down here, just as an FYI, Tim Keeney, who was the vice chairman of BNY Mellon. Remember from my video yesterday, BNY Mellon is the largest custody company in the world. Largest custody company in the world, who is also one of the largest investors in SBI Holdings, which is the largest outside investor in Ripple and in R3. Are you starting to see all of this come together, folks? And so my point in tying this into the bread wallet is that, look, we've talked about Polysun being a custody solution for traditional, for major firms, or whether it be doing custody for someone like a Charles Schwab or a Fidelity when they get into digital assets, somebody like that. Well, what about if one of these wallets that right now will not be used by me because I'm scared of hackers and everything else, what if one of these wallets announces at some point that all of the digital assets that you send to that wallet are then immediately stored with the global standard in digital asset custody, Polysun? That's just a theory I'm just throwing out there. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family that the goal for XRP is to have the liquidity of something like the Swiss franc or even more. And it might just end up being the greatest digital asset / safe haven / liquidity provider in the history of the world. Thank you for listening.